sold by the municipality, and you say, okay, I can be interested to build a house there, but I need some more people because, of course, I cannot afford to build a house for, let's say, 500 square meters if you have 3-floor stores. And so you look for friends. You have a good friend somewhere, and you say, yeah, why don't we go to Vauban with our own families? Okay. And so why not? Could be interesting.
Yes.
And then you decide together, and then you say, okay, but maybe 3 floors for a rather big flat for only 2 families is too little, is too big. And so let's look for other friends or other people. And then maybe he has a good friend, but you know that you don't want to have friends because it's not interesting and you had some problem. And so you say, no, let's look at my cousin can be interested. And he says, okay, your cousin could be a good neighbor.
Okay.
Of course, I mean, each of you would have your own flat, okay, but you would have some common share together. And then you need a fourth party, and then you look on the internet, for example, for a fourth party.
What happens if there is any problem?
No, and this is the point. This is the point. So, on one side, you have a very positive aspect that you are building a house together with people that you already know. Okay.
So I think this one have very beautiful. This is a very beautiful area.
This is a very beautiful area because here we are exactly at the limit of the district and in fact at the limit of the house. So just imagine you live there. You have real nature in front of you. It's not just artificial nature. It's not just an English garden. It's not just something, but it's really nature. I mean, with plants and so on. Then there is a small river, a bach, a stream, and then really the nature starts. So, as I said, I mean, here you can really reach the city center with its disco, museum, restaurants, theaters, cinemas, libraries, and so on. And if you just go left and if you go right, you just reach the nature, or you are in the nature. And this again, it's a proof of the quality of life that we have in this area. And the district was really planned in order not to touch the stream. So to have the natural stream as a natural limit of the district. Okay. I don't think I have much more to say. So,
yeah, I'm more like a listener because here is more like you're talking. I'm just asking, but more like we are trying to deliver the message from you to the people. So
yeah. Okay.
Even I can see it have very good smell as well here. You can smell nature, and this is not really far from it.
You have good air quality.
Yeah,
that's absolutely the point, and really the result of this district. But it's also important the fact that the district was possible only within this the big way the way the town have been planned. All in all, because otherwise this is not just a sort of a spot by themselves. Yeah, you know, we are followed by the.
Could you maybe explain a little bit more about the nature in here?
Yeah, I mean the nature is really represent the limits of the town. So in the end, we have the situation in which here the town starts. As I said at the very beginning, the Vauban district is very dense, but it's exactly because it's very dense that we can have untouched nature at its limits. If we had, just imagine if instead of had this kind of construction, we had the situation in which each family had its own house with a garden by themselves. And then you can say that all other families would have built there and there and there and there and there, and then we would have a very big town, and we would not have nature anymore. So this was the idea of the urban planners.
I like it. It's like you're living in the botanic garden.
Hey, it's exactly.
Yeah.
Or you don't need a botanic garden because it's just.
It is.
It's just a reality. Yeah.
So you sometimes have this kind
There
of
is something interesting also by you see that there are rights in Arabic over there, and this is because the city of Freiburg have welcomed quite a lot of refugees from especially from Syria, but not only from Syria. And this place, this kind of kindergarten, of natural kindergarten, have a lot of collaboration with the refugees area and they are starting to integrate foreigner people and migrants
여기 이거 찍으라는데?
within the city population.
여기 옆에 있는 데가 유치원이래요. 여기가 유치원인데 여기가 근데 이제 약간 자연과 함께하는 그런 유치원 컨셉이다. 그래서 그거 지금 설명하고 있어요. So this house is very different. Have a very big window in front. Why is it?
Exactly. This is one of the so-called passive house. Why passive? A passive house is a house which in fact keeps the warmth, the heat within the house wall, and the heat's created by people themselves. People. Okay, now it's summer. We don't need heat, of course. But just imagine the winter. Just imagine you are about 0 degrees, or even you are below 0. And of course, in a normal house, you consume a lot of energy only by heating. In this kind of houses, you produce warmth by just living in the house, by cooking, by using the shower, by using TV and so on. And since the walls are very thick and isolated, and we have triple windows and so on, and we have isolation on the top and on the basement, then it's like in a sleeping bag. The warmth is kept within the house. And then we have a different thing, that the windows facing south, this is south, the window facing south are very big, very wide, so that in the winter when you don't have leaves in the trees, then the sun rays can heat the house by themselves, you know, and so we have a very good situation, because the sun can really warm the house by themselves. If we go by the northern side, and maybe we can move there.
Okay.
We can see it, which is exactly the other way around. And since, of course, by the window you have more warmth dispersion, more heat dispersion. And this is what we have on the north side. This is the north side of house. So here it's the more fragile way, the place where the heat can be dispersed. And then that's the reason why here windows are very, very small. So of course the living room of the house is on the other side, and here we have mostly the bathroom, the sleeping room, and so on. And we have a very small windows, so that the least possible warmth will be lost. And you have just compared the gas the heating belts of people living in a house like this, and people like me living in a normal house, I have to spend and to pay to invest 10 times more money to heat my house than what they do. So I mean, you can see that living in a good way, in an environment-friendly way, it's also a much cheaper way to live, because you don't have to use money to do such a stupid thing like burning oil or burning gas just to heat a house. And this is, I think, it's a very important thing.
Okay.
Okay.
이제 어떻게 이제 인터뷰하고.
Okay.
So this is actually main street, yeah?
This is the main street, and it is interesting because you said normally when you see a street, in a normal street, it's a place for cars. And look at the street. We have more or less, if you 40 meter wide, more or less, and then just look at the space devoted to the cars. We have a big place for public transport here. Then we have a natural area with this raining water collection. How you call it? Graben in German.
Graben?
What is it? Okay, the place, this stream to collect water, and then we have a huge pavement for people again. So out of 40 meters wide, only maybe 3 or 4 meters are devoted to cars. So this is the very first important thing. The other very important thing is that this village, sorry, it's not a village, it's this district. Is, so that the trams.
Yeah, we can still talk. Yeah, I can talk.
Yeah, okay. Maybe there are still a couple of minutes, maybe. Okay, in any case, we do it. And then another thing that we can see is that this village, this eco-district, is not being created only for people to sleep, to eat and to sleep. But here we have schools. We have seen at the beginning, we have a lot of kindergarten. We have center for young people, center for older people. We have people to buy things. We have supermarkets. We have libraries. We have shops. We have some handcraft area over there. So we have really more or less all the offers that the city can have. And this is also has an impact, a positive impact also on the safety of the village. You come here, let's say, in winter at 5 o'clock when it's already dark, but you have a livable district. You have people around because you have people going to shop and so on. And so you have a much more safe feeling instead of being in an area in which you have only houses and nothing more. At after 4 o'clock, everything is dark, everything closed, and then you don't have a real life.
Actually, it's very difficult to find any CCTV in here. That's why, because in Korea or any other countries, village like this, and so many tourists coming in, there's so many CCTVs everywhere. But I can't see any. Is there any reason?
It can be possible. Well, in Europe, you have a rather strong regulations about that. If you have a CCTV, you have to inform people that there is a CCTV, so you cannot just have one. But as I said, I have the impression that the feeling of safety is more given by the fact that people are around and people live in the district. So you don't need a CCTV to make you safe, because what makes you safe is that there is a place to buy things over there, and so there are people around, and so you know that if something happens, there are people. Okay. So, could you just test we're going to test the audio? Yep. Hi. 1, 2, 3. Okay. So, could you just make a short summary of this village again? Yeah, eco-district Vauban has been planned at the beginning of the 90s when the French army left this military base, and a group of people, a group of intellectuals, students, young people, asked the city administration to plan together a sort of alternative district, a new kind of district. And after some discussion, the city administration accepted this, and they started to plan so that some new characteristic for a quality of life close to environmentally friendly quality of life had been implemented. First, the mobility. You can see that people use feet, walks, bicycles, very sparsely the cars. Many of people here don't tow a car because it's not needed for their life. The second characteristic is the energy of the building. So buildings don't need a lot of energy to be heated. In some cases, for passive houses or even the Energie Plus houses, they barely need energy to be heated, which is very good not only for the environment but also for their financial situation. The third thing is the use of the space. So space is for the people, not for the cars. There is space for green areas, great spaces for common parts. There are squares, like in this case, and so the space is done for the people and not the other way around. The fourth characteristic is possibly the fact that it's not just a place to sleep, but it's really a place to live. There are places to eat, to go out in the evening, to have music, to have parties, to have common spaces, to have the rural market, like is this area. And so people don't have to go away to go to other places. There are places to buy things, to do shopping, to do. And so you don't need to create extra mobility to go 5 kilometers away from the town to buy, for example, in a shopping mall. And then finally, all whatever we have seen has been planned together by the public administration, by the city administration, and the people themselves, as a stakeholder, as a common co-planner. So these are the main characteristics of the districts, which reached a very high quality of life, and that's why it's very interesting. But I have to say that this characteristic, maybe they are, in a way, the bigger, the main characteristic, and they are very specific on this village, on this eco-district, but they are common with the rest of the town. So we have a green city in Freiburg, and within the green city we have eco-friendly quality of life, and not only here in Vauban. So I would say this is the highlight of the city, but it's not only Vauban.
Coffee, cappuccino, who want
Cappuccino for him and espresso for me, yes.
Thank you. The next question will be about the future, because I saw this village is expanding. 그 다음은
Thank you.
지금 뭐 얘기했냐면 여기를 소개랑 이 사람들의 라이프가 어떻게 되는지를 얘기했고, 이제 그 다음에 미래에 대해서 물어볼게요. 준비된 말씀 있어요?
네.
쉬울까요, 뭐를?
알리
Ali, you have to a little bit more. Okay, yeah?
스케줄 이쪽 보라고.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I saw when I first coming into the village, you actually explained me the school is also a different color because it's expanding. Also, I saw there's new houses are building it. That means this village is still growing. So
No, it's finished. Now they started to build in 1995. The last building has been built 2016, and now it's finished.
So what,
Now-
what could be the future for this?
Well, the future it's to build another part of the city, not here. But this is in any case an important point which is beyond the limit of this of the eco district. I mean, Freiburg, when they started to plan this village, this eco district, the Vauban, Freiburg was about 190,000 inhabitants. Now Freiburg is 230,000 inhabitants. So within 25 years, we had population increase by 40,000 people, which in Europe is absolutely uncommon. I mean, of course, in Asia, this is something that we know for India, for growing economies. Now it would be the case of Africa, of course. But in Europe, where we have, in fact, a stagnation of population, this is very uncommon. So this really speaks for the extreme attractiveness of this town. And the town has to now take decision. They succeeded in building, in developing the town using the principle of what they called in German Innenentwicklung vor Außenentwicklung. So internal development before, instead of external development. But now the limit has been reached. Not only the physical limit, but also the social limit. The fact that now it's very difficult to buy or to rent affordable flats. Because of course, if you have a very high quality of life and you are very close to the city center, in a free market society, even if you do some social housing and so on, the prices go up. And this is something that of course the city administration cannot accept, doesn't want. And so some years ago, the city administration decided, for example, to build a new district outside the limit of the physical limit of the city, which is still very well connected will be very well connected with an existing tram line, which will be prolonged. So, but it's really a new area for 11,000 people. It will be started to be built from the 2020. So this is the future, and the future of this area of Vauban. Let's see what. I mean, there are people here that live here from 1995. So maybe now their children who were born here will leave the house. Let's see if the parents will decide, okay, now we have a rather big flat, children are away, what should I do? Shall I go away and leave place for bigger families and I will go to the countryside or will go to another part of the city, or I will stay in a bigger flat? Let's see. This is something that even sociologists cannot really foresee.
So what could be your very short definition, like 1 or 2 sentences of smart city?
Well, a smart city, I have to confess that smart city is a strange definition, because I have the impression that everywhere in the world, everyone or each person uses smart city in the way he or she wants. There are some people, for example, using smart city to mean a city governed by smart technology, by smart information technique. I think that I'm still in favor of the idea of a sustainable city where people can live together with the nature, can live in a sustainable way, contributing or not contributing too much to climate change, having nature and culture and recreation and commerce very close, so that car is not needed, and you can, with the car sharing, you can just decide not to own a car and just to take a car, to rent a car only when you really need it, just reducing the number of space, this number of square meter or kilometer devoted to cars. And this is a good city, it's a smart city, I would say. And of course, not only environmental things have to be take into consideration, but also a social thing. A smart or sustainable city is also a city which is open to people of every belief, every religion, every kind of culture, every nationality. The city of Freiburg welcomed in the last 3 years about 4,500 refugees from Syria, from Afghanistan, from Iraq, from Ethiopia, from North Africa. And I have to say I'm very proud of this because the people in Freiburg accepted them, and now many of refugees are becoming citizens of the city, just cooperating or going to school, finding a job, finding some startup for them, bringing new cultures, new way of eating in the city, and this is the way I think the world will be better. And I think that is having a smart city, having a city in which people, we have seen so many children going around, strolling around alone with the nature. I have the belief that in such a kind of city there is more tolerance, more openness to different culture, and this is an important thing nowadays.
네, 마지막으로 여기 사시는데 행복하냐? 어떤 거 앞으로 이런 게 많이 있었으면 좋겠냐? 이런 한 2가지만.
Do you actually live here, or?
I live in a neighbor district.
Okay.
I don't live here in Vauban, but I live in Freiburg in another kind, in a more traditional district, but still in which there are more cars than here. But still, I would say that if I think I have 2 daughters, they started to go to school alone when they were 7, and in very many other cities in Europe or in the world, this is not possible. And this, of course, is good for the children because they become more independent, and it's much better for the children to go to the school with friends instead of with the father or instead of with the mother. But it's also good for the parents because when my children go out and go to school, I can have a second espresso, I can read a newspaper, I can have time for myself. And so this is again quality of life, and it's much better to stay on the sofa or to getting ready to go to job or to answer email or to do whatever than to go locked in a car fighting with other fathers or mothers to bring children to school.
So what could be? Is there anything they really want? Maybe one more thing from this village? Because you're very happy to live in this area, but maybe there should be one small thing to improve your life. What could be? It's a difficult question. I think it's an easy question, but it's very difficult.
Then no, to improve my life. I mean, well, the only thing that I would like to improve would be to have even more and more time, just to enjoy, to slow down the way we are getting older and older, of course. And if I could repeat also my last 10 years, would be nice. But of course, I'm joking, of course. But in fact, I think that you can try to. There is kind of this management cycle. Let's plan, do, check, act. I think it's an important thing. I mean that if the city administration still discuss with people living here, also to think, was everything okay? What did we create? What have we reached? And this is something. For example, maybe if there is one thing that in this district could have been better, maybe would it be to have more variety of people. Maybe here population is a little bit too homogeneous. Many Germans or European middle or upper class people. So maybe there could be some more efforts to have more migrants, more other people. I don't know, maybe this would be the only thing that could be improved. And then let's see if this, and then there is another thing that about especially the thing of the cars. So to have an almost car-free district, if this model can be used also in the new district that have going to be planned in the next years, this will be, I think, a good thing. Thank you.
사람들 많이 온다. 빨리 해야 돼. So quickly, yeah. So
As you like.
yeah. So 자 빨리 해봐. So could you explain us about this village because we want to know about it. Because you're living here.
I live here. It's Bourbon. It's really a nice place. When I come here in 2001, and we built many people built their apartments in groups. Just a moment.
No problem.
Okay.
계속 하라고.
Many people took their chance. They built their apartments in groups. They bought the ground to build houses.
Okay. Can you just repeat again? Sorry.
From which place? From which point?
Just beginning. Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. One more. Yeah.
I live here at Bourbon since 2001, and I built my apartment together with our people. The town, Freiburg, they bought the ground to private people, and there were groups, and they built houses together. This was a chance to become owner of an apartment for many people here, and many people took that chance. And this was, in former times, this was the place where the French army was, but in 1989, there was no more frontier between the German Democratic Republic and the Federal Republic of Germany. And therefore, I think in 92, the French soldiers went back to France. And then here was placed to found a new village, and I think Freiburg took a chance to find a way for many ideas people had here. For example, it's a place you can have a car, but then you have to sell a place for the car, or you have because according to the law, when you have an apartment, you are obliged. You have to have a place for a car. Each apartment has to have a place for a car. Here there were houses for the cars, and when you do not want to buy a place for the car, you go. You become member of a club.
What is the best part of the living here? What is the best part?
It's easy.
Easy.
Because it's near. You go 100 meters this direction. You are at Schönberg. That is a mountain. There are trees. You are outside Freiburg. You take the tram, the little train. 11 minutes. You are in the midst of town, and you go by train. Half an hour. You are in the Black Forest. Half an hour, 50 minutes by car or by train, you are in France, and 1 hour you are in Switzerland.
Lovely place to live. Yeah. Okay, you have so many guests, so we'll wait. Yeah, no problem. Yeah. Thank you. 손님 너무 많아. 저는 이 동네 사는 거에 대해서 쭉 자랑하고 얘기하고 너무 말이 길어가지고 이 동네 가장 좋은 게 뭐냐 했더니 이지하다 모든 것이. 이지에 대한 이유를 좀 설명했습니다. 너무 손님이 많아가지고 Yeah, could you explain us about bread and your area you just mentioned it to me?
I think in this area, many people are conscious about nature, about the world. In the bakery where I'm working here, this is my place where I work. There's the grain. It's biological agriculture, and when the bread is prepared, the grain is prepared in the night before at this time. Okay. Therefore, it is fresh, and it has plenty of vitamins. It's the best quality. Also, the people who are living here, not especially in this area at Bourbon, they are conscious about the world, and there, for example, is a shop. They sell jeans, and there you can see the picture of a person who is preparing, who is making the jeans, and it's. There's a shop on the other side of the street. They are conscious about fair trade. It's a kind of thinking, and with this thinking, I think you can perhaps find a way to that there's one day a united world.
So maybe if I met new people from the outside of the city, I will say you have to visit this bakery because this is the best bakery in Bourbon.
I think there are many shops of this bakery. I think about 30 shops in the region. This is a bakery of Ehrenkirchen, but the quality is really high because it's biological agriculture. Since 1989, the owner of this bakery, he tried to find farmers who give him the grain he wants, and it's also fresh made. It's also fresh made. Okay.
Okay. Well, thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thank you very much. 택시 와 있어요. 택시 가야 돼. Three, 1, 2, 3. Can you hear me? So, Ali, thanks very much for coming down to this far away.
Was a pleasure.
You're my business partner. I mean, for me, it was very difficult to understand because I have almost nothing knowledge in Germany. But here, it's really great because you are here together with me, and it actually helps me much more better understanding of technology in here. You and I were working in this village this morning, but do you have any kinds of impression? How do you see this village?
It's impressive to see how people got involved in these projects. This is something normally you don't see from outside. How is the process of development of such a project or such an area where people actually live and they spend most of their time in this area? So basically you can see as we walk around, we see people have everything what they need in here, and they don't need that much cars, they don't need that much energy to live and spend their time, spend their life in such an area. And this is what it's about. This is, let's say, the German philosophy of the green city or sustainable city of the future, is concepts like this. So it's basically meant to create life space, living space for people, using high technology without making it that much obvious. So Germany is an old-fashioned country with a long history and very, very conservative in terms of keeping their history and the old buildings and stuff. That's why you see old buildings all over the place. And here where we are now, everything is pretty new. So still looks like more or less like conservative areas. And also if you see that right over there, the old buildings which have been refurbished and modernized, where people live in now, there was a former military base. So there you can see, okay, what's the idea behind? And actually it's okay. Of course, the main target is reducing greenhouse gas emissions. That's of course one of the main targets. The other one is saving energy. So of course we can try to solve this with technology. But technology only doesn't help the people. So if you have high technology, reducing energy costs and so on, so still people might don't like it, might don't use it, and this might not generate the same value for the people to live in there and to create such a space. If you don't implement the people, their lifestyle, and create a living space. 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's working?
So Ali, while we are walking around this village, we saw so many solar panels here.
Yeah.
Do you think it's enough, or I just simply cannot understand why they have so many solar panels here, but maybe it's enough for them, or what do you see? How do you see this?
It's about using the space you have for generating energy. And the best thing you can do is putting them on the roof. It's invisible for the people in here. As you can see, the roofs in here are more or less flat. Sometimes you can see them a little bit, but mostly it's invisible for the people. And that's a benefit. People don't like to see that. It's electricity on the building and stuff. People basically don't like it, and it's changing the view of the building and the view that the people have of their life. So people are very much connected to nature in Germany, and especially in such an area where nature is very close to the rural areas. So that's there's the benefit. Very simple. So you put the panels on the roof, you basically don't see them. And that's better than putting them on the ground, having a huge solar farm to generate energy, constructed cable lines to bring electricity to the homes. Just put them in there. Next step would be to have the battery in the house to store the energy. So it's step by step. As you have heard from the other people we've been talking with, it's a development process since decades going on in Freiburg. It's not only Freiburg, it's several areas in Germany. But Freiburg is a very good example to see how they do it, and they're doing very well in here.
But also you see there's I asked several times, the blind thing in the outside of the window.
Yeah.
Why do they have that? I mean, do you have any idea? I simply don't understand.
It's very simple, and this is not really new technology for us in Germany. Maybe it's hundreds of years old technology. It's very simple because we have very long days in summer, and sunlight coming into the rooms very early morning, like 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning. And if it's too bright, and normally, in the, let's say in the northern part of the world, or let's say at least in northern part of Europe, people like to have the main living area focused to the south, to have as much sunshine coming in as possible. But if you imagine you want to sleep out, so it's going to disturb you at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning if you have sunshine in your face while you want to sleep. And that's the reason why most of the houses have this kind of thing.
But how do you know this kind of technologies very well? I mean, I know you are very expert on the clean tech and many other aspects. But, could you actually explain me a little bit more about what do you do as a business-wise?
My business is mainly market entry services. So we've been supporting many companies entering to the, let's say, green energy market and green building markets. So there are a lot of small companies around Europe. Not only in Europe, I've been supporting companies in Korea as well. There are many companies with very nice... sorry.
Let's go back to your business again.
Yeah. We're mainly doing market entry services in different fields. One of the major fields my companies focus on, is the green energy. We call it green energy field. So it's not about only generating energy. It's also reducing energy consumption. So there are many companies, many small and mid-sized companies as well, especially in Germany. a lot of small and mid-sized companies having very nice products for this kind of project to reduce energy costs, to reduce energy consumption, to generate energy, to make those things more efficient. For example, I can give you an example. What we see very often in Freiburg is the second green facade, how they call it in here. It's basically they put some lines outside the facade, the original facade of the building, and they plant some plants to grow up the building. So that means you have a second facade. It helps you saving energy, heating costs and cooling costs as well. So that's one advantage. The second advantage is it's going to be green. It's going to plants help consuming CO2 or transforming CO2, and this is another benefit. The third benefit is people like nature. People, it's a benefit to people's life if nature, plants, animals, even insects. I'm sure you don't like insects. You told me several times. It's also mosquitoes killing me as well. But still, people are very much concerned about issues like, okay, bees dying or other insects dying, other animals dying. So people want to save them and give them some space as well. So this is another benefit. This kind of project sounds very simple. Okay, you plant a plant and it just grows by some water and sunlight. But there are companies in Germany very specialized in doing that in an efficient way, in a good way to make it sustainable. So that's what we can see. Okay, there are so many companies. There is a lot of engineering power. There is a lot of R&D works going in there. But there must be someone to help those companies commercialize, to get into this kind of projects, you know, to basically sell the product and improve people's life with that. And that's what we are doing. We're helping those companies to dig into such projects, to commercialize their products. And with a pretty much focus on implementation of different technologies and products in certain projects and processes. That's what we are doing in this field, and the main task what we're doing. Of course, while we're doing that, we get a lot of experience. We see a lot of projects, because a lot of, let's say, expertise, also technologically. Yeah, I'm no engineer, but meanwhile, I'm doing that since 2009. So it's almost 10 years. We're supporting companies doing that. There is a certain expertise after a while. So that's why I can tell you even in here, Vauban City, we've seen the panels on the roof. Some of them are almost 20 years old. Of course, there will be a certain time to upgrade, give them new generation of solar panels for the roofs. This is going to increase the efficiency and the output of energy. And maybe a few years later, you can improve your facade of the building, save more energy for heating and cooling. Or we've seen in the city hall building, in the new city hall, the water cooling system. They don't have any air conditioning. Maybe today's really hot.
Oh, yeah.
Today's really hot in here. So you can see it can get very hot in Germany as well. We're not that much focused on cooling. We're more focused on heating, because the winter is longer than the summer. But still, okay, we need cooling as well. So there are new solutions. I'm not sure if there are that many buildings, let's say outside of Europe, where you have this water cooling system in the building, and it's coming from groundwater. It's you're using natural resources. You're giving them back to nature, and you can reuse it again. That's a very clever idea.
You know, Ali, I'm also doing the smart city and the smart house. Let's say if I want to implement, or if Korean company want to come here, or if I implement German technology into Korean smart city project, what could be the advice from you? So let's say I want to choose some solar panel or some energy company from Germany to bring in to smart city or smart house project in Korea or / Asia.
Yeah.
What could be your advice for them?
You know, to create a smart city or let's say green city, you need to think about the environment where you want to create it. So you might, in Korea, you might more be focused on cooling than on heating, for example. So that means you have to implement different technologies. So to choose the right technology, so first you have to think about, okay, what do I have? Where is the place? How is the environment? How is the temperatures? How is people's, let's say, people common behavior? How they want to use their living space? That's all the things you have to take into account if you want to create a sustainable green city. And what I can tell you is, okay, there is no one solution for everybody. So it must be customized solutions. As you can see here, implementation or involving the community or the citizens of this area of Freiburg was very important for the development of this project. So this is because the people's behavior, the people's background, history, and how they deal with environmental problems and so on was very important. Freiburg has a long history fighting against nuclear power plants and really being environmentally friendly. So that's in their people minds. So you cannot do or create such a living space for people without taking into account their minds.
So Ali, I have one final question, as I ask to everybody. What could be your definition in very fancy one sentence of smart city?
My definition of a smart city, it's a very complicated question because it's not my smart city. I live in Hamburg, you know that. If I would have create Hamburg as a smart city, so I would use a lot of things. We have a harbor. People in Hamburg love access to the water. We have the Alster Lake in the city center. So people love water, being close to water. I would definitely implement that as a big point into a green city project. However, you can use it with the technology which you have at that moment, and technology is developing and changing. So it depends on when you create your smart or green city. So you're going to have a certain technologies you can implement, and depending on the environment or the place, you should use different technologies. So what is the main point creating a green city is, okay, you're going to try to reduce energy consumption, the greenhouse gas emissions, you want to save the nature, you want to save water if possible, you want to create a life space where people feel well living and they like using the technology you implement. So if you have all these features together, you might have the perfect green city.
마지막으로 스마트 시티
너무 길게.
한 문장으로
Okay, maybe Ali. No.
한 10초?
Maybe you can make it a little more shorter sentence or definition for smart city. So I can see you are very focused on have to reflect people's lifestyle in the city. Maybe I don't know what's the best way to describe your definition, but let's make it a little bit more shorter.
Okay. Again?
And camera.
Yeah. My definition of a smart city or green city, how you call it, needs to have the perfect green city or smart city. Needs to have different aspects. So one is saving energy, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, increasing people's life quality with the technology you can have. So that's a green city of the future.
Done.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, so basically, thanks very much for your time. We would like to understand about yourself and your organization first. Could you quickly, briefly explain us this to me?
What
Sorry, 다시 할게요. Okay, sorry.
크게 조금.
Ready?
조금 크게.
네.
큐.
So first of all, thanks very much for your time. Could you explain yourself and your organization?
Okay. My name is Andreas Hildebrand. I'm the speaker of Public Transportation Company of the city of Freiburg.
And what does your organization is doing?
We are operating the bus and tram system, and well, this is our task. This is a public transport within the city of Freiburg. We have 74 streetcars, we have 64 buses, and last year we had more than 80 million passengers. That means we have around about 220,000 passengers a day. That's the number of inhabitants of the city of Freiburg.
Also, what is the streetcar you actually mentioned?
The streetcar?
Yeah.
It's the tram, it's the light rail.
Okay. So you said bus and tram and streetcar. The streetcar is more...
A streetcar is rail-based system, electric system, and yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a difference in American English and British English.
That's so I also saw there are so many bicycles in this city. Could you explain us why there are so many and why does people like it or everyone?
Well, we have the big luck that our political leaders in the city government since many decades wants to promote the environmental friendly modes of transportation. So we had in the year 1969 the first master plan of bicycle riding here in the city of Freiburg. This was a time when bicycle riding in Germany was seen more or less than a sport, not like mobility. And so the city of Freiburg developed a good net of bicycle lanes. We have more than 400 kilometers of bicycle lanes and bicycle-friendly streets here in Freiburg. And well, with a good offer of infrastructure, you can convince many persons to change from special trips from car to bicycle or from car to public transportation system.
And also we went to Bourbon Village, and we were very interested. It was very interesting, and also they have a very special traffic system at there. Can you explain a little bit about the village?
Yeah, in Bourbon, the housings do not have parking places close to the houses. Normally, it's a duty in Germany to have this, but not in Bourbon. They have two big garages for all the cars in the residential area. And well, you can reach your house by car. You can put things outside of your car, but then the car has to vanish to one of the big garages. And there is a very good system of bicycle lanes, of pedestrian lanes, and in the center of the settlement there's the streetcar, the light rail line, and it connects the inhabitants with the rest of the city.
But I guess when you first try out this system, there should be there was some problem, or maybe people don't like to do this. Is there any kind of difficulty when you first try this new system?
Not at all, especially not in Bourbon. We have another example. It's Rieselfeld. It's another new city district. It's just around the corner here, and well, it's very good when you can connect urban planning with mobility planning, because mobility planning is part of urban planning, and that means the offer of environmental friendly modes of transportation should be very good, very attractive. And it's not a policy against cars. We will have individual car traffic or individual traffic necessarily every time, but it's an offer to use the environmental friendly modes of transportation, and people moving to these places know what they have to expect, and most of them like it.
You just mentioned there are new sites you are developing.
Yes.
Could you explain us a little bit about it?
Yes, it's a little bit older than Vauban.
Mm-hmm.
It started in the middle of the 19th last century, and it's on 75 hectare, and at this city a residential area for about 10 to 12,000 inhabitants. And well, the logistics of mobility is the streetcar line, bicycle lanes, footwalks in the center of the settlement. And the streets are speed reduced and so on for cars.
And I didn't saw many electric vehicles in here, but is there any reason, or do you have a plan to increase the electric vehicle park?
Well, when you have a look there are two of them. Cars from my company, we change when we have new cars. We change from diesel or from to electric to electricity. And I think this is the new trend. And well, our buses now, they are diesel, but the next buses we will have are electric.
Okay. I saw the tram in here is very different, and looks like a little bit old style, but also they are very modern. But can you sort of explain a little bit about the tram, because that looks very interesting, but it looks so different.
You mean the different vehicles?
Yeah.
Well, we have different vehicles and types. The oldest are from the 1980s. And the newest are 1 year old, and so we have a range of 35 years around about. Well, in 2 years the 5 oldest will be replaced by 5 very new one, and so it's always a change.
뭐뭐 얘기했냐면 여기 전체에 교통 인프라에 대해서 얘기했고요. 또 자전거가 왜 이렇게 잘 돼 있고 어떤 정책된 자전거가 이렇게 됐고. 그다음에 트램에 대해서 얘기도 좀 했고, 아까 버번 빌리지 우리 보복마을에 교통 시스템이 왜 특이한지 거기에 대한 얘기들을 쭉 하셨고, 요 근처에 있는 또 다른 동네 얘기도 좀 해주셨고, 전기차가 생각보다 많지 않은데 앞으로 전기차를 얼마나 더 늘릴 건지에 대한 계획 같은 거 좀 얘기했고요. 현재 그런 얘기. 오케이. 만약에 또 스마트시티에 대한 정리 하나 하고 이제 보자 그럴까요? 네, Okay. So I have one final question, which is I'm asking same question to everybody. So everybody have a different aspect.
그거 하나 또.
Just a second.
외국하고 우리나라, 외국하고 아시아, 유럽하고 동아시아하고 차이점 같은 거 있잖아요. 그런 교통을 보면서 느낀 점은 좀 하나만.
Okay. Look, I have 2 more questions. First one is, if you ever been in an Asian country, you might already understand they have a very different traffic system that you have. So we want your opinion on how you compare these two systems and what could be the lesson that we learn from Freiburg. And second question will be, we are asking the same question to everybody, but what is your short definition of smart city?
Okay, that's a difficult question.
Yeah, that's just, it doesn't have to matter. It could be just your own view, that's still fine.
Okay.
We just want to hear many different opinions from expertise from all around the world. So there's, ready? Oh, okay. So you might visit South Korea or any other Asian country. You might see they are very different, and also I saw there are so many advantages of Freiburg. Can you compare these? I know it's difficult generally. Compare two systems, and is there any kind of lesson or secret recipe that you are able to give us?
Oh, this is really difficult. I've been to Asia. I've been to Japan one time, and it was on the countryside. It was very car-based. In Tokyo, there's a very, very strong public transportation system. Really, really great thing. But it's very difficult to compare cities in Europe, in the older Europe parts, and in Asia or in the United States, because the structure of the cities is really another way around of very often. And for example, density of population in special parts and so on, which is a very important topic for public transportation, or geography or climate and so on. I think the most important thing to learn from Freiburg is the concept of a city of the short distances. And I have a second to explain it. When you are in residential areas in Freiburg, you normally will find little shopping malls, little grocery store, bakery, a barber shop, and so on, where you can buy a shirt and so on. And the big hypermarkets at the border of the city with the big parking places where you can buy from milk to television and dishwasher, everything in one shop, they are not allowed here. There is a list of the things of the daily supply, and things of the daily supply are not allowed to be sold in the big shops at the border of the city. People should not have to take a car ride to buy their milk. They should go walk by foot or by bicycle to a shop that is some 100 meters away from them, and they are 100% mobile for buy the things of the daily supply, but they are causing only a very short amount of traffic. 100% mobility with less traffic. Yeah, this is very important, and it has a strong social effect. When people are on the streets in the residential areas are not only for sleeping there. There's life on the streets, and when there's life on the streets, people feel more safe and secure and so on. I think this is a very important thing to know about the system here in Freiburg. And smart city, what is a smart city?
Yeah,
This is a really difficult question. Well, I think it has, in our days, it has a lot to do with digitalization and digitalization of mobility processes. That you have your app on your cell phone. That I say I want to go from here to there in this time, and it organizes the whole chain of my mobility with leasing bikes, with car sharing, with public transportation, and so on. I think concerning mobility, this is the direction of a smart city, and well, as digitalization, the things are paid. You do not have to have cash. It's all in one in your app, and this is the future. We are on the way into
Your
this.
definition of smart city is more like focusing digitalization and the mobility.
Concerning mobility, yes.
함장으로
Can you make it like a one sentence?
아유,
And
Oh.
here, yeah, for smart city.
Okay. Concerning mobility, the smart city has to be highly digitalized. Oh,
Really, no problem.
is digitalized right?
Yeah, digital.
It sounds digitalized.
Yeah, digital.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
하이,
Concerning mobility, the smart city has to be highly digitized, and with a system, one in your pocket. It's so shit.
I like that definition. For sure. Let's do that.
No, cut.
Yeah, make it again.
하이, 큐.
I have to concentrate once.
Yeah.
Yeah? Okay. Concerning mobility, a smart city has to be highly digitalized.
Thank you. 감사합니다.
Perfect.
Perfect. Nearly perfect.
Are we able to look around with you and do a little bit about
Yeah, sure.
anything you think?
For good traffic. And there are only two cities in Germany that made it another way around. This
Okay.
is Freiburg and Münster in Westphalia. They said, okay, we will build the city center. Everything is destroyed. We have to build new housings, but we'll build them in the city center within the medieval crown plan. And so when you are visiting the old city of Freiburg, most buildings are post-war buildings. But you have the medieval feeling because the structure is medieval.
Oh.
And but the medieval structure is not good for many
Yes,
car
yes,
traffic.
yes.
And so when Germany came to wealth again, the 60s, and everybody had a Volkswagen Beetle or something like that, a car, the streets in the city, there was the 24-hour jam in the city center. The place around the cathedral has been a big party. And so they had to think, they saw this is not the way how it can go,
Yeah.
and we have to think about other concepts to make the city center reachable, but not by car. And this was the beginning.
Okay. And this is actually the area that all the buses and streetcars are here?
Yes.
Could you explain us a little bit about the area?
Yes, these are buses. They are back from a service, and they wait to be cleaned and so on.
Yes.
These are buses from another company. They have extra traffic because a railroad track is refurbished, and they have buses now there, and they are guests here. Here is the garage for the buses, and behind this 3 garages for the streetcars. We can go in if you want. Yeah, workshop.
Oh yeah. So you actually maintain bus and streetcar at the same pace?
Yes. Oh well, cars here, buses there.
Okay. I guess this, this type of bus is very difficult to. 아니 전기차는 아닙니다.
기름은 안 쓰고 전기로 이동한다는 거예요.
그건 아닙니다. 그건 아닙니다.
We get money for this. Yeah, it's important.
Of course, of course. So, wow, it looks like, how does it possible?
I think they just make a new advertisement on it.
질문 하나만 해볼까요?
이게 지금 차이가, can you explain us a little bit? Can you explain us more about this workshop? And I can see there's a very old one and there's a very new one.
Yes, that's right.
How old? What's the difference between these two?
This is a light rail train from the year 1991.
1991.
It's 33 meters long, and it has been the first train with one low floor entrance.
Okay.
Yeah. This one is one of our newest. It's from the year 2015. It's completely low floor and it's 9 meters longer.
Okay.
Streetcars in Freiburg get longer and longer every time because the number of our customers is increasing very, very fast.
So could you tell us who you are and which company you're coming from?
My name is Mireille Jacobsen. I am the responsible hospitality manager here at the Crown Plaza Hotel in Copenhagen, where I help with taking care of sustainability across the whole company.
큐. 다시? 아니야.
이거 다 그대로 써요?
네임이다. 네임은 이름만 쓰려고.
Okay.
큐.
It looks very special in my point of view, but could you explain us a little bit about this place?
Yeah, well, this is a very fantastic place actually. You come in. Yeah.
This looks very special in my point of view. Could you explain us a little bit about what is this place?
It's a very unique building indeed. The Crown Plaza Copenhagen Towers here is actually built from the very beginning. Thought that it had to be one of the most sustainable hotels in the world. Not just a green hotel, but really one that took it out there. So it is unique in the sense that we have a hotel building in one of our buildings, and the other one we have offices actually, which is a full service provider. So from the very beginning, we thought that what are we going to do to make this a sustainable hotel, or as green as it can be, and we implemented several flagship technologies to make this not only green but one of the world's best. So as you come in here, you can see first and foremost our atrium, our indoor forest that we have here, which really brings out the soul of the building. But as you walk around, you can also maybe see that this maybe is one of the only things as you walk around. It's a very minimalist building, and it doesn't have waterfalls and walls and green everywhere on the walls and everywhere. And that's really because here sustainability is integrated behind the scenes. For us, sustainability is just something that has to be there. It's not necessarily something that our guests need to actively choose, because we've already made the decisions for them when they arrive here at the hotel. It could be, for example, the fact that they don't need to think how long they're going to take a shower, because we've already implemented water-saving technologies in the rooms. In terms of energy, we have one of Europe's largest building integrated solar panel parks. So you can see the facade of the building, even though you don't notice it's there, is actually solar panels that create our own on-site electricity. A hotel like this, or a building...
Sorry, 1 second. Hotel like this, because
조금 앞으로 조금 더.
maybe move a little bit there.
Yeah.
오케이.
Later?
네, 됐어요. 네, 바로 또 이어서 해달라고.
Should I start from the solar
Okay.
panel parks?
Yeah, solar panel park. please.
Yeah.
Just 1
Yeah.
second.
대대로
Yeah. Okay.
대대로님은
Yeah, we have one of Northern Europe's largest building integrated solar panel parks, which means that we generate our own electricity on site. You don't maybe not notice it actually when you arrive, as the facade just looks like it has glass paneling on it as such. But we actually generate about 12% of our own electricity here on site. The rest of our energy comes from green energy solutions, comes from windmills. So that being said, that 100% of the energy we use here at the hotel is CO2 neutral.
How's the people's reaction? Maybe you all can say, what's the people's reaction from Copenhagen, or what about the people from outside, like the guests? What does people say about this building?
Well, people think it's awesome,
Yeah.
I want to say.
I feel same.
Yeah, that's great. No, people are often very surprised. Like I say, that you come here and you experience an excellent hotel. An excellent hotel that you would find in anywhere else in the world. But on top of that, it's actually one of the world's most sustainable without them actually knowing it. So when they find out that it is as sustainable, they just think that that's bonus, that's added value, which actually makes, at the end of the day, for much more engaged, much more loyal guests that actually return to it, because they also want to be part of the journey in their own footprint when they're traveling.
Maybe this might be a little bit tricky question. Yeah? It's just from my own thought. I went to Singapore, and there is a very famous hotel called the Pickering. Pickering hotels have a kind of a garden around the hotels. They have a water purifying system from the top to bottom. So they are also very nice, and there looks like you have own garden in every room. But I feel like there's so many insects, and I really didn't like to stay, even though it looks very sustainable. Is there any kind of similar problem with this building about insect or something?
Insects?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if it. Well, at the moment, actually, we're having a little bit of a challenge. Whether it is, but it's nothing that the guest experience as such. Again, this is a public area, so it just looks because of we need to put some different lighting on it, which makes a difference. But other than that, it's not really something that you experience, especially not when you're. It's not something that affects the comfort of your stay, because I think that is extremely key for us. When you come here and have a sustainable experience, it must never ever compromise the quality of the product that you're experiencing, the quality of the service. So it should not be a worse product at the end of it. You should not be bothered by insects or everything else. It should just be a great experience that actually enhances that, makes it feel better at the end of the day.
So I don't like mosquito, and that building.
No, I
can. 18th floor, there are mosquitoes all around the world. I really
Who likes
like
it? Yeah,
So We have one more question.
Yeah.
And we are talking about smart city. How does this building can play a role in smart city? Smart city can be defined so many different ways, but how do you see this building play a role in smart city?
Well, I think buildings are icons, first of all, right? Buildings, they show how things can be done. And I really think that this building was a landmark in terms of sustainability in the city. Not only in terms of the hospitality industry, where we actually show people this is how it can look like, how a sustainable building, a sustainable company can look like, while still being profitable and getting tourists to come to the city and experience that. So I think that's very integral as well as a city, Copenhagen, where people can come in and also experience a new way of living, to come into a public-private area, forest, where you can have a sustainable meal, while at the same time just living, around the corner. That being said, we also contribute to the fact that we have our own on-site electricity, for example. Copenhagen also has a goal to become CO2 neutral in 2025, and that's a very important part as well for us, because we also know that our guests, they come to Copenhagen. They don't come to Copenhagen Towers. Yeah. So first of all, it's important for us to be part of the destination and show that this is Copenhagen and be a landmark for the city as such as well.
So maybe just one more question. Is there any kind of political support when you first build this building? Of course, Copenhagen is Denmark looking for energy independent, sustainable energy for 2025. Is there any specific benefit or incentive when you're building this from the government or as a political?
We weren't.
Okay.
Yeah, we weren't. We didn't get any special subsidies in that sense. That was more than 10 years ago. I think today is quite a big difference. There's a lot of money and funds to be actually. There's a lot of initiatives from government to actually help get this on the roll. But once again, actually, this building opened at the same time as COP15. The climate conference happened just down the road here, actually. So in that sense, it made a big difference that Hillary Clinton was staying here under the climate conference, and it really opened in the name of climate change, and we really became a beacon in terms of that under the whole thing. So in that sense, I really think that it is part of that. And since then, also, I mean, this tower has also been chosen by, for example, political parties that have government negotiations and so on, because it also reflects green on them, so to speak, as a place that they want to be associated with, a sustainable place.
It's a joke, but if Kim Jong wants to stay here, but it would be best place to stay.
I think maybe you could elaborate on how the whole district has...
Yeah, I can't remember what was the last thing I said. Was that...
I was saying that there's...
Oh yeah, that was the area. Yeah, sorry, I just have to remember what I was talking about. Yeah. So actually, when we opened here, when we opened the hotel here in 2009, we were literally in the middle of a field where there was nothing going